There's something most women were never taught, even though it's one of the most important pieces of fertility. It's that your cycle isn't random. It's not just something that happens once a month. It's actually one of the clearest windows into your health and how your whole body is doing. In fact, many holistic practitioners, myself included, refer to your menstrual cycle as the fifth vital sign. Just like your heart rate or your blood pressure, it reflects what's happening beneath the surface. And learning how to see those patterns beneath the surface doesn't just give you information. It helps many women reconnect with their bodies and restore a sense of confidence and trust that's often, unfortunately, been lost. And that, in itself, is priceless. Getting back to your cycle can reflect hormonal signaling, blood flow, nervous system balance, metabolism, immune activity, and more. But here's the problem. Most women were never taught how to read the cycle. So you get a period. You notice if it's painful, maybe if it's late or particularly heavy. But no one ever shows you really how to listen to what your period is telling you. When fertility isn't happening, not knowing how to read your cycle creates a real deficit. There's so much data, but no context. And women are left wondering what really matters and what doesn't. And when they're told that everything looks normal, then curiosity often stalls, even though something still doesn't feel resolved. So here's what I want you to know. Your cycle speaks in patterns, not in diagnoses, not in labels, but patterns. Things like how the bleeding starts and how the bleeding ends, how long the bleeding lasts, how predictable the timing of the bleeding is, whether there's pain or spotting, and how energy can shift across your cycle. These patterns aren't random. They're actually telling us something very important. They tell us how resourced your body feels, and fertility depends on resources. Your body will only open to reproduction when it senses enough energy, enough blood flow, enough stability, and enough safety. So when a cycle shifts, or stalls, or becomes uncomfortable, it's not your body failing. It's your body communicating and saying something here needs support. And that's a very different story from the story that most women have been told. So I want you to start listening to your cycle. And when I say listening, I don't mean analyzing every detail or watching it obsessively, but I mean observing the same signals over time and noticing what's consistent. Because one cycle by itself, well, it doesn't tell us much, but patterns across several cycles, that's incredibly informative. For example, I want you to notice, is there spotting before your period? Is there bleeding that's consistently heavy or consistently light? Is there pain that shows up at the same point every month? Maybe during their cycle, maybe right after, maybe right before. Are there cycle lengths that vary widely? Is there recurring PMS? These are important patterns. They aren't isolated events. They're your body repeating the same message until it's understood. Sometimes women like to focus on whether her cycle is normal or abnormal, but I think it's more important to focus on the specific parameters that matter. So for example, predictability is a parameter that's important and useful. So a cycle that's consistently 35 days tells us something very different than a cycle that jumps from 24 days to 40 days, back to 25, then to 36. Neither is automatically a problem, but each is important information. And listening is the way that we gather that information. And we need to then sit and understand it without immediately trying to fix it. Once you start seeing patterns, then you can respond more intelligently. You might support sleep and see how that affects things. Maybe ovulation timing will change. You might stabilize blood sugar and notice shifts in your energy or PMS. Maybe it'll reduce inflammation and see changes in pain or blood flow. The important thing to do is make the change and then watch. What shifts, what doesn't shift. And the feedback, that's how the body teaches us what actually matters. This is why learning to read your cycle is so powerful. It doesn't just give you data, it gives you orientation. You stop feeling like things are random. You stop outsourcing all of your knowing. And even when answers aren't immediate, you're no longer in the dark. You're actually taken back control of your body and hopefully have restored confidence and trust in your body. If you're listening to me and realizing, wow, I actually don't know what my cycle is doing or what it's telling me, you're not alone. I'm currently working on a simple, grounded resource to help women start observing and then decoding their cycles so that they can offer the right kind of support and then see how the body responds. So if this episode stirred something for you and you'd like to go a little deeper, you're welcome to reach out to me. You can send me a short note through my website. The link is in below. Just let me know you're interested in this resource and I'll let you know when it's ready. For now, just know this. You don't need to have it all figured out to start paying attention. You can begin by noticing and mapping your cycle. That's your 5th vital sign. As we keep going, we'll continue to layer how sleep, stress, blood sugar, inflammation, and more show up in your body's patterns, so you can respond with support instead of pressure. Because when you can hear what your body is actually saying, everything else becomes much clearer. And I'll leave you with this. Your body isn't broken. Your symptoms aren't random. And fertility doesn't respond to pressure. It responds to support. Take this as an invitation to listen more gently, more compassionately, and more purposefully. Your body is wiser than you think.